I want us to feel organic, right? So if we get rolling, you're sharing great stuff, which you're going to share great stuff, but if you're in the middle of a great point, I don't want to. So, Laura, I want to make sure you've got. So, from a housekeeping perspective, one of the most important things for me is to capture your authentic story, but not only to capture an authentic story, but a story that you feel authentic to share, that you feel excited to share, that you feel. And that my goal is not to hit you with any gotchas or get into anything that's private. And so there's a couple things in your story that you've never dove into. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, right? So I want to be mindful. Like, so one of those, like the adoptions of your niece and nephew, you've left the why out of that. I'm assuming that's intentional. Is that it's okay. Okay. So yeah, it was. I watched a lot of what you've spoken about. I hadn't heard it in anything, so I wanted to just honor if that is something you've kept off the table. And then, did you play? Who was your coach at Oregon? Was it Chip Kelly or who? Okay, okay. I'm terrible. My wife is. I married this girl who's just nuts. Like she can tell you who was the coach for what team and all these different times. She's like 5'10", blonde, beautiful. I don't know how I got it done. So I'm terrible at that. I'm like, wait, no what? So she would have made fun of me for that very quickly. So, anyways, and where are you located? Okay. I thought, Indianapolis. You've you had a special moment in my hometown here. Was the combine here when you showed up and yeah, yeah, yeah. You showed up and you dropped the mic here in my hometown. Yeah. Yeah, when I read the you weren't on anyone's radar really till the combine, I went, "Oh, he's going to love where I'm from. This is going to make him feel this will bring back some good warm and fuzzies in my hometown, right? Or where I'm at." So, you do a lot of this. We normally will give people a little bit more of a warm up. I love your story. I love this why, and I love that you lived your why and helping people understand that. And so you've got the questions. Just to give you an idea, I likely won't go top to bottom for somebody with your expertise and communication, experience, and stories. So that's more for your preparation to make sure you feel confident from that perspective. So anything from me and that you would like me to know before we hit record or anything you feel I should be aware of? I don't, you know what? Like, so you can, you will have to do a hard right turn to get into it. But no, I don't think that serves either one of us, at all in terms of just, it's not, quite candidly, like, all of that is not good, but candidly, it's a distraction more than anything. It's a distraction. Like it's like that's an excuse for you not to be living excellence, and it's not good. But that's somebody else's lack of living excellence, not mine. So yeah, so I'm not interested in engaging in that unless for some reason you feel necessary the need. So, and I'm pleased to hear that you don't. I'm not that educated. Like really not the guy to be talking about it. Like, it doesn't make me feel good. I don't, I kind of want to shower after I read about what's going on in politics and anyways. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's so 100%. If you, I don't know if you've seen me, I don't, here's my general thought. I think we all have agency. I think we have the ability to hold on to our life and guide it in a way that there's no, like, for some it's harder, but there's always an opportunity to improve. We can always move 1 to 2% better and where we were in the circumstances that we were born into. Like, I dealt with some crazy stuff as a kid. I don't get into it in this podcast. I've lived it myself. I'm an ultra marathon runner. Yeah, I just did a 50-mile ultra marathon on October 3rd. So I don't like. I've got 3 kids. I run the podcast. I run a business. I run ultra marathons. Like I'm not interested in your excuses, And I grew up in a pretty darn broken ass home, right? So yeah, all that is just people looking for something. They're looking for something, and yeah, there's enough negativity in the world. There is enough negativity in the world. So no, we aren't going to get into politics. We're not going to get into. We could talk about your favorite flavor of ice cream or whether you think pineapple belongs on pizza. Now that's some pretty hot stuff right there. But that's about as. Yeah. No, you can't do it, right? Nobody, people have a real strong opinion on that almost always. Um, yes, yeah, and you loved it. Yeah, it's a fantastic. You're like, whoa, this is. I didn't see that coming. So, anyways, no, no. Any other questions for me? That's a good question. To be some 100%, 100%. So, no, no, wait, 100% in agreement. So, I'm excited for this conversation. Let's have a good time. I'm going to hit record and we'll get going. Okay. Well, JJ, thank you so much for setting some time aside. I can't wait to share your wisdom. What an incredible story for those who don't know your story of, not being at the top of the pick, not being the number one draft pick, your way of getting into the NFL and everything that you've done. I can't wait to have this conversation with you. Maybe share some stories about Joe Montana that not everyone knows. But I can't wait to have this conversation. And truthfully, before we begin, I want to recognize you. One of the most important things I think in life is being the example for others, being that shining light for others. And in so many places, whether that was on the college football field, in the NFL, or as a father and as a foster father, the ability to demonstrate for others something they haven't seen in any other place and not listening to other people's no for your dreams. So incredible, so inspiring. So thank you so much for your wisdom. And I can't wait to have this conversation with you today. Absolutely. So it's no one knows your stat sheet. No one can see how big of a guy you are, but you weren't the typical NFL player from a size perspective. Um, Kind of share that story with us. This idea, the smaller stature gentleman. Can I call you smaller stature? You can kick my tail. Is that okay? Okay. I'm only 5'6", so I guess it's I can make that comment. I'm not a big guy myself either, but you made it to the NFL. Not only made it to the NFL, but played at a very elite level for the Kansas City Chiefs for many many years. And if you haven't seen the your highlight reel of just absolutely smoking people with your speed, which is a lot of fun. Talk to me about what values did you anchor to as you embarked upon that dream that allowed you to achieve something when everyone else was in your ear, so many people in your ear saying, you can't do this, you can't achieve that. What allowed you, what you anchored to during that journey of yourself? Mm. Yeah, you had to square up against Junior Seau, I read at one point. That had to get your attention. You couldn't be mad at him. So everyone's telling you no, right? Because you played track for Oregon. You started as a track athlete. That's right. And your distance wasn't. You were a hurdle guy, right? Track and long jumper. So what makes a guy who specializes in hurdling? I mean, it's hard to get to play college sports, no matter the discipline. To get in and get a scholarship, doesn't matter what the sport is. What made you say, I'm a long jumper, I'm a hurdler? This isn't a person who's specializing in catching footballs, let alone going to the NFL. Like, what was the why that drove you to navigate to say, hey, I'm going to make a space, a place, or a path for myself? What was driving you to do that and to achieve such an incredible goal? Mm, mm, mm. Well, and Oregon's no schlep of a track and field school either. I mean, they're one of the most premier track and field schools in the nation, if not the most premier. So the fact that you got that opportunity, that the coach was willing to be flexible enough, you must have been pretty convincing. Mm, They didn't expect it. They didn't see it coming. So, I mean, I got so many questions from that. The first one I'll ask you is for you. It sounds like this whole process of from high school to college, from college to NFL, and from NFL beyond is about creating opportunities where other people said there weren't. What is the opportunity you created for somebody you love that you care about the most that makes you the most proud that has come from that drive inside you? What is that opportunity for somebody? Hmm. Holy cow. Yeah, I was gonna ask, like yeah, you're take. I hope you took a quality timeout on that one. Well, yeah, calling a timeout. Mm. So what? How old are they now? How old are your niece and nephews now? Okay. So as you look at where their lives are today, and you see the values that they're embodying, the direction that they're going, the choices they're making. What values do you see them carrying forth that you can say you can look at them and go, I know my wife put that in them, or I know that they saw me modeling that. Like, what are the things that you see them living that you know came to them that you blessed them with that in absence of that act of courage probably wouldn't have been instilled on them as young people? Mm. A 100%. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I don't know if you've read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. It's an incredible book, but he talks about this experience of his mother leaving his abusive father and where David's life went in this courageous act of his mother to leave a really, really horrible situation, but not only horrible from that perspective, but she left with nothing, no money, no resources, and really, but what's not talked about in the book too much, unless you listen to him, is that his brother chose to stay. His brother chose to stay in that relationship. And I think one of the things that is so important when we think about the directions of our life is two things I really grab from that. Is one is the power of choice and the power of the people we spend time around, right? It's our teammates, if you will. It's that he chose to go play for the a different team, not Team JJ, not Team Vision and Victory and Success and Ownership, but Team, different direction. And you can't make somebody choose to play on your team. That's a powerful understanding. So as you've gone through your life, one of the things I think is really interesting as this why is there is this early phase of your why is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll show you a little bit, a little chip on the shoulder, right? I mean, you look at what that's done to Tom Brady, right? And some of these incredible Hall of Famers were the last. Aaron Rodgers was picked. Yeah, I forget what round. I think 12th round, if I recall correctly, right? Is it? And that was your story. You had to make it in the combine. You had to get attention here in where we're recording. I'm recording this here in Indianapolis. But there's been this transition in your life from the why before the NFL. Where did that transition to how you see things now today? And it's certainly a little bit more internal versus external for my watch. Where did that switch flip, and how has that served you as a leader today? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. You've been raising children for, you said, 30 years? That's incredible. I just wanted to get that on the recording so your wife knows that you knew without having to look at anything how long you've both been married. So that's a husband looking out for another husband is what that was right there. So one of the things I think is really exciting about listening to you speak is that you share these ideas, these two or three things, these little micro choices that the understanding that if we want to get someplace impressive, significant, impactful, that it's these daily disciplines. And one of the things that I love, I talk about this a lot myself after I just trained and completed my first 50-mile ultra marathon. And there was a lot of times I didn't want to get up and run. All right, I've got this incredible video of me doing a 8-mile run in the pouring rain because it was the only time I can get my run in, and it's 8 miles. I looked like Forrest Gump in the when Captain Down's out there on the boat and it's just dumping down. That's what I went through, right? Because if you run or you do what you need to do when it's easy, when it's convenient, and when it feels good, you're going to get. So, where did you learn the power of discipline, and how do you apply that to these little pieces that people can apply each and every day to really make a profound impact in their life? Mm, often. 100%. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think one of the things that you recognize is you see the power of discipline is that you see that it's what gives you the confidence the moment where you need it the most. It's those deposits you make in your mental box to say I can get because you didn't say like if no one's watching you, it's that hot August day of sticking around to catch 1,000 more passes. It's the hot August day where I don't want to go out and do my 25-mile run. Those are the days you want to hang the cleats up early, right? Well, those are the deposits in those championship games that have made the difference. Like when you realize the power of discipline, right? So you played what 9 years in NFL, if I recall correctly. So you did year one. Did you discover the power of discipline in year one? And if not, like, what did these little discipline habits do as you reflect on your career? How did that make an impact on the success that you had? Mm. Yeah, don't get hit, right? So lesson one is don't get hit. Yeah, my Did you see that right away, sitting the bench, watching these other guys just get leveled? Did you go, okay, that's not like, I'm not gonna make it very. Did that dawn on you that you're on the bench? Oh my goodness. What did you talk to him still? The guy who tossed you? Did you guys? Mm-hmm. So what did you know in that moment? Did you know like so he tosses you and what was the guy's name again? Hanford Dixon. So when Hanford picks you up, treats you like a sack of potatoes, just sets you aside. Did you know did like in that moment while you're picking yourself up off the ground, right? Then your ego and all the things that probably went along with it, right? Did you know what that moment was? Did you recognize what just happened to you? What lesson was delivered to you? Or was it in reflection you identified it? Okay. Mm. So what I love about that is through this whole story, there's never been this time where you mean, through this whole process, no door was ever really opened conveniently for you. You weren't the number one draft pick. You weren't automatic starter. First snap, scrimmage. You get chucked off the field. By the veteran, but in this process, there's never been a time, JJ, where I've heard you say, my dream's over. Like this was, what is it in you that you've always anchored to? Literally getting thrown off the field, right? That you've anchored to, that you've always believed and dreamed at a level that no one else in your life has dreamed at. What has allowed you to dream at this level? What do you like? Say somebody who's they've set a big goal for 2021, but they're not. Maybe they're just like, I don't know if we can do this, or feeling a little hesitant. What would you tell that person from what you discovered in your life and the way you've dreamed and accomplished things? Mm. And one of the things I also noticed is not only you're willing to work for it, you're willing to be patient for it. So talk to me about that a little bit, because one of the things I thought was really interesting about your story is at every league, at every step along the way, you didn't get to start right away. You had to pay your dues on the bench. Like, first I go to college and then hang on the pine for a bit. And then I think it was at the NFL where your first game you just absolutely like 186 yards, couple touchdowns, 50-yard couple of those plus 50-yard plus catches. What allowed you to stay patient to know that someday, in some way, your dream was going to come along? Because how in timetable for people from the moment you recognized you were going to play in the NFL to that breakout performance, how long was that? Mm. Mm. How did you know that? So, I mean, not only patient, but your willingness to you got multiple offers. Was Green Bay one of the offers? Dang it! I'm a huge Packer fan. This would have been even more. I mean, this is. I'm so excited to be talking to you, but I would have been even next level if you would have played for my Packers. But that's beside the point. So, how did you stay patient in that moment to evaluate, and what did you ground that decision to? All great teams, all great. There's, each one of those I'm sure was an incredible opportunity. But how did you know that was a right environment for you? Because the best idea in the wrong environment is just as worse as a bad idea, right? We're not going to get it off the ground. So how did you know that? What did you use a process? What was that? What was that like for you? Mm, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Okay. I love everything about this. So you understood the environment, right? So you knew your comparative advantage. You knew what you brought to the table. You knew what everyone else brought to the table, and you knew that there wasn't anybody like you. That you're the fastest man on the field in the offensive position, wide receiver, right? You understood that there was somebody else who was going to be in your corner all times because your success was their success. There was an alignment, right? That's a huge one, right? So often we want to try to make somebody like us or get them to win them over to our side, and so we spend all this energy trying to convince somebody that we're worth the shot when here's a guy who already thought you were from day one, moment one, right? So you gave him the opportunity to look good, right? And mm, yeah, you mean you paved the way for like Jordy Nelson and those. I mean, Jordy wasn't a very big guy either. I mean, you showed in the NFL like. I'm sure you looked at the stats and like were you one of the smallest wide receivers from a weight perspective at that up to that point? You were 157? Yeah, that's not that's no, no, no. That's you want to stay away from people. That's probably smart. So, how you raise this beautiful family. You obviously get the opportunity to share your story from the stage in beautiful ways, and I love listening to those speeches you've given. I think I'm very curious. Is you have an intensity about yourself. You have an intense. You set a high standard for you, and I'm sure that's something for others around you. They see that, right? Not everybody can meet your standard. Not everybody can meet your pace. How do you create space for those on your team, for those around you to be their authentic self, knowing that you have this big dream? And kind of as a follow up for that, how have you helped others? And what process would you recommend for leaders to help others unlock their dreams the way you've unlocked your own? So, share with me a time. I think one of the things that's so interesting is there's these thematics that come forth through people's lives. Sometimes things they don't even see in themselves. They don't recognize the power that they just operate from it. Like I was having somebody share with me, it's like how you're inspirational. I'm like, I call that Tuesday. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is just where I operate from, right? So share with me as you've gone on this journey and, from college to the NFL, to the health and wellness, to speaking, what is something you've discovered about yourself in this journey that if you had known when you're 18, if you knew when you're 22, would have made your path easier? What thing about yourself have you discovered that has really given you strength and power at this age that would have been helpful that you wish you could, if I could put you in a time machine and tell that 20-year old, tell that 18-year-old JJ that, what piece of wisdom have you gained through this journey that's been really powerful for you at this stage and phase of your life? Yes. That's a big one. I don't know if you've read Collins Built to Last or Good to Great. They're incredible business books. Yeah, and it's that you're more likely to die of indigestion than starve to death. And what I heard there is that the power of no, the power of boundaries and the power of no. And for a guy who everyone's saying, okay, you've got limitations and here are these limitations, that had to been incredibly hard for you to set those for yourself. Mm. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, so has anyone ever said no to you that you're like, yep, I agree with you there? Is there been anything that you think back where you tried to prove somebody wrong that maybe you shouldn't have, or now reflecting on it, like has that tendency ever got you, I don't want to say in trouble, but like have you learned any lessons from that element, and how do you navigate now today knowing these limitations? So I don't know if you got any great stories in that process, other than trying to run over Junior Seau, which is in and of itself. Uh, I'm glad he picked you up off the ground. No way, no, thank you. Whoa. Do you miss it? I mean, you probably don't hear no very often anymore, do you? Okay. Mm. Yes. I couldn't agree more. I think you understand the value, whether that was the choice to go in the Kansas City Chiefs and knowing your comparative advantage, whether it's as a speaker, you are very authentic to who you are. You in knowing that comparative advantage of what you can bring to the table, what environments you're going to shine in, has allowed you to carve this path. And I think one of the gifts that people really need to give themselves is honoring who they are. Who are you? What have you been made uniquely as yourself to give as gifts? Yours was speed, right? It wasn't size. Yours was agility, right? Unbelievable, right? I mean, if somebody hasn't seen some of your NFL highlight reel, it's really fun to watch. You'll be, ooh, I was like on the edge of this. You just dropping people, just the ability to they elude the defender in a place. I think a few times you probably had to ship people's cleats back to them because you left them. I'm like, there's I think might have been against Houston, the particular one, Houston Oilers. And you catch the ball right on the sidelines and you just absolutely leave the guy in his cleats, you little right. I'm like, you're almost out of bounds. You go, how the guy believed that you could go that, it was just off you go. It's incredible. Incredible. Did you miss that at all? That's a, yeah. I don't, I was going to say, I was like, Tuesday, like, is that Phil? I don't know. You probably aren't watching film on Tuesday. What was Tuesday? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Those are some serious paychecks, I suspect, back then, especially with, when you get 9 years and second contract and the whole bit, right? So it's incredible. I think one of the things that's really special here is, and one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to start the year, that you are one of our first conversations begin the year, is that you've lived the life of the underdog. You've lived the life of people saying you can't, you can't, you can't. And if 2020 had a theme song, right, that was the word. So many, not you, but so many were saying, well, we can't, it's too hard, the coronavirus, the pandemic, the shutdown, whatever it was. Everyone was pointing in business to say was just too hard, which is not even a word that thought process doesn't even resonate with you. So let's pretend that this mic is magic and you can speak to every small business owner, every startup, every person who is chasing that dream, who's facing some adversity right now, right? Things are a little more challenging. Maybe they had a key member that left their team because of what's going on, whatever it may be. What advice would you give to that entrepreneur right now that you gained through your ability, this underdog mentality, coupled with talent, coupled with work ethic? What would you tell that entrepreneur right now going into this new year that you think would be impactful for them? Oh, yes. That's incredible. That's a huge takeaway. Yeah, we got all the equipment to record, start doing in-person podcast recording. We got like 3 of these mics. We get 2 tracks laid down, 2 or 3 episodes recorded, and everything shut down. And I said, we've got to figure out, like, there's no to this. Like, we are launching a podcast. We're going to have conversations with leaders and individuals whose success has been grounded to some core values, right? Some inner peace, some inner components that have allowed them to accomplish things that are incredible. And we're going to put a spotlight on who you are matters more than what you have. Who you are as a human being is more important than the resources you've accumulated, the trophies on the wall, because that's the stuff that's going to be consistent. I imagine there's elements of you that each one of your children and your nieces and nephews, those core values that have allowed JJ to do what you've done, no matter the circumstances, no matter the team, right? It's that, right? And when your why is big enough, and that's just such a beautiful story that your life is that it, of course you did. Of course you went virtual, right? Because what else are you gonna do? That's who you are. Did you even like how long of a thought was it? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or was it right? Right. Talk about the power of commitment, right? Like one of the things I think is really powerful in this piece, right, is you're out there. He calls the audible, which life does. Talk to me about the power of commitment in that moment and why that's so important for people with this game plan. That was the last piece of recommendation. Talk about why that's so critical to get for people to get to where they want to go. Mm. How important is for that why to be internally versus externally motivated in your opinion? Yes. Yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm in this process, what I call my decade of discovery. I really want to understand. I don't know what my limits are. I'm sure they're out there someplace. I haven't found them yet when it comes to endurance and what I can do. Just like where will I stop? And so last October I did Jesse Itzler's 29029, where I climbed the same mountain 17 times till I climbed 29,029 vertical feet cumulatively. Did it in 31 hours. And I was interviewed at the top of the mountain after one of my ascents for their social media thing, and they asked like, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, I've got three young kids. Now they're 8, 6, and 2. They were younger then, but and I said I want to show them that just because you're an adult, you don't stop doing courageous things. That being a kid is courageous. Everything's big. Everything's scary. Everything's like you don't have any choice whether to be brave as a child. It's just what degree of brave are you going to be? There's a new teacher every year. You're making new friends, all that jazz that goes on. And the world's a scary place. People use words you don't understand. It's very if you're an empathetic parent, you see this, right? Even if that child's growing up in a home where the mother and father are still together and everyone's in a good financial situation, like my kids, you add the layers that so many kids are dealing with that are more challenging than what my kids have to face. And so I said, I want to show my kids that you don't stop doing things that are brave just because you become an adult. I want to model courage to them, right? So this year, I signed up for a 50-mile ultra marathon. I'm going to go to Hennepin. I'm going to go to Illinois. I'm going to run, 50 miles. And this whole virus, the pandemic unfolded. And I've been training from, it's a 6 month training program, running boatloads of miles, getting up out the door, running at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. There was a time where my wife got super sick, so I couldn't get my run in the morning. So I start my run kids are in bed, start my run at 8 o'clock at night. So I'm running into the sunset, finish up at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, kind of crazy stuff. And they cancel it. They cancel the event, right? So my opportunity to go run with community, to go connect with people, to go it's gone. It's over, right? But you can do a virtual, right? In my why, it never was about that. It never was about the trophy. It never was about the medal. It never was about the shirt. It was never about any of those things, right? And so on October 3rd, I ran a self-assisted 50-mile ultra marathon and have the most incredible experience where my kids on a piece of toilet paper held up a finish line in front of my home, right? I wanted them to be part of it and the environment. And so I couldn't agree with you more, right? Is that it wasn't even a hesitation. It was like, I want to show this to them. And they were there every step of the way, 10 plus hours of running. They got to see the whole thing. And I told my wife, I said, honey, now that we're doing this at home, I want you to understand something. I said, there's two ways this day ends. I said, I run 50 miles or you call 911 and you take me to the hospital in an ambulance, but there's no way I'm quitting. She's like, I'm in, let's go. In a day. Yeah. 50 miles in a day. Yeah. So, yeah, 50 miles consecutively. It took me, 10 hours of clock time, 10 hours of running time, 12 hours of clock time. When you've got three young kids, there's a lot of hugs and kisses in between each lap. So I did a 10 and then 5 8 mile runs consecutively. Yeah. Yeah. When they say your world, your success, life's a sprint, right? In my world, life's a marathon. I'm gonna get it's there's two ways to be the most successful in life, right? Is one is to be the best at building a building. The other is to never stop building yours. There's two ways to get the tallest building in town, right? I rarely have been the most talented on the field, but one thing I will do is I will continue to build long after everyone quits. So, sounds exactly your story. And so I was excited to have this conversation with you is that so often we quit, right? Your patience is incredible in what you went through, right? So many times, so many places. So when we think about your story and what you want to leave this world, let's fast forward. Say it's 15, 20 years from now. Do you have any grandkids yet? Yes. Yes. How old? 19 months. Is River close by, I hope, for grandpa? Nice, nice. So, um, it's 10 years from now. So River is 11, 12 years old. He's impressionable. He's almost going to be a teenager, right? In this hypothetical. And it's Thanksgiving, right? And who is it, your son or your daughter's child? Okay. So it's Thanksgiving, right? They're over at your place. And you see your son having a conversation with River. He's making a point. He's having one of those conversations, father son conversation, right? Maybe you guys are out playing a game of pickup. River has a bad attitude, right? That kind of thing. What is the one lesson? What is the one value you hope your children will carry forth to River and all the other grandchildren you may be blessed with? What's the one legacy from who you are that you hope is always part of your family? Mm. I love that. I love that. Well, JJ, I want to thank you. You thank you so much for the wisdom. I think one of the things that I will never forget from this conversation, and I can't wait to share this with our audience, is that so often in life that if we stopped at the first point of resistance, if we stopped at the first no, if we stopped at the second, the third, the 22nd no, we don't get very far, right? That your clarity and your confidence, your conviction of why you were going to do something, what intentionality you wanted to bring to this world has driven you to achieve so many incredible things. And I hope when people hear this, and I know that they will, that they seek inside themselves what that thing that they've been listening that to those no's for, and they identify in themselves that deep-seated why and give those gifts to the world because they've heard your story. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And I'm going to tell you when we end this conversation, I didn't get to see all the highlight reels. When I wrap this up, I'm going to be hitting YouTube to watch it. Um, so let me ask you, I've got one more question for you. Before we ask that, I want to ask you, how can we support you? How can people find you? If they want to know more from you, if they want to book you as a speaker, if they want to read the book, help us understand how we can find you. Yeah, your Instagram page is, they're looking for wisdom and applicable wisdom, something people could take away and put right into their life. You share a lot of that on your Instagram page. It's great stuff, and your energy comes through on those. So I want to ask you one last question before we let you go. What does legacy on purpose mean to you, JJ? I love that. Well, I could tell you this. One of the things I know will be said about you is that you're one of the good guys. So thank you for sharing your goodness with us. And thank you again for your time. Hopefully, we can stay in contact. My pleasure. That was great. How was that for you? Will you say that again? You said you're impressed with what? Yeah? You like this?